Welcome, executives, consultants, and CSK candidates to this Masterclass Explainer. Today, we're tackling a absolutely critical question. Why are management accountants increasingly expected to contribute to strategy rather than just merely reporting financial results? Look, the days of just staring in the rearview mirror at historical performance are over, completely over. Modern management accountants play a vital role in gathering, analyzing, and interpreting competitive intelligence. In this session, we're going to focus on your four major responsibilities. That's understanding and auditing the competitive intelligence process, providing really deep financial analysis, linking that intelligence directly to organizational strategy, and, of course, embracing ethical behavior. We're here to elevate your role from traditional reporting to generating actual strategic competitive advantage. Let's get started. Here is our roadmap for today's explainer. We'll cover 1. The intelligence imperative. 2. Information versus intelligence. 3. The 5-step CI process. 4. Navigating a VUCA world. 5. The ethics of intelligence. And 6. The consultant's mindset. All right, let's jump right into Section 1, the intelligence imperative, or as I like to call it, thinking like a strategist. So let's challenge the status quo of what management accountants are actually hired to do. If you're preparing for the CSCA examination, you really need to understand that the examiner isn't going to just ask you to recite a textbook definition of competitive intelligence. No, they want to know if you can actually think like a strategist. This question is the fundamental strategic question you've got to ask yourself. We are expected to systematically collect, analyze, and interpret competitor information. And how do we do that? By examining highly specific financial metrics. By looking at a competitor's pricing strategies, their cost structures, and profitability, right alongside things like their liquidity, leverage, and efficiency. Management accountants help executives answer crucial questions, like which competitors are gaining an advantage, which strategies are actually financially sustainable over the long haul, and where should we be allocating our resources. It's all about anticipating threats in real time, not after they happen. Moving right along to Section 2, information versus intelligence, and how to avoid the dreaded data trap. Now, what's genuinely fascinating about this concept is that it highlights a dangerous illusion in corporate boardrooms today. And frankly, it is a major CSK exam trap, so pay attention. The distinction we're looking at here is one of the most highly testable concepts in this entire chapter. Let's look at a quick mini case in the airline industry. Picture an airline that possesses absolute mountains of data on passenger volume, customer surveys, historical flight logs, the whole shebang. Yet somehow they completely fail to anticipate a major competitive threat. Why does that happen? Because they possess information, but they completely lack competitive intelligence. Lacking that intelligence, they fail to see a rival carrier aggressively leveraging debt to buy a massive fleet of much more fuel-efficient planes. Most companies think having thousands of pages of reports means they're prepared, but information without analysis is quite literally just noise. Competitive intelligence, on the other hand, is about generating strategic insights and actionable advantage. So how can accountants move beyond that traditional reporting? Well, the answer is by living in the insight and action stages of this pipeline. Memorize this progression, slow down, and realize that the true strategic value lies purely in transforming analysis into insight and action. Data becomes information, sure, but it absolutely cannot stop there. You must push it through rigorous financial analysis to create insight, which finally drives action. The examiner wants to see if you understand that those last two stages are where the actual value is created. Managers rarely suffer from a lack of information, right? They suffer from information overload and conflicting signals. Your job is to convert that complex chaos into absolute clarity. Okay, Section 3, the 5-step CI process. This is your engine of insight.
So the crucial point here is how we actually build this engine of insight using a systematic approach across 5 specific stages. First off, you identify intelligence needs, asking exactly which decisions actually need to be made. Second, you gather information from both internal and external sources. Third, you analyze those competitors and trends. For instance, if you're in manufacturing, analyzing competitors means looking way beyond just their product line. You need to audit their supply chain efficiency and their capital leverage. Fourth, you generate strategic insights. And fifth, you support those managerial decisions. Let's apply this to another mini case, this time in the banking sector. A massive global bank doesn't just gather daily transaction data. No, they analyze macroeconomic leverage trends and interest rate risks across all their rivals to generate insights that dictate their own market entry and investment strategies. You have to push through the data to support those high-stakes executive decisions.
Listen closely, because right here is where most candidates completely drop the ball on the exam. Never, ever assume that collecting more data automatically improves decision-making. Let's do a quick CSKA-style scenario-based question together. Imagine a retail company notices declining market share, a competitor launching new products, and rapidly changing customer preferences. Management creates a task force to recommend responses. So, should management focus on gathering more unstructured historical data, or should they focus on generating better insights from the data they already have? The answer is generating better insights. Insights create value. Piling on more unstructured historical data just creates more noise and actually delays strategic action. Let's shift gears to Section 4, Navigating a VUCA World. This is intelligence in action. Let's ground all this theory in reality and look at how competitive intelligence functions in a wildly unpredictable business environment. Modern organizations operate in a VUCA environment. That stands for volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. And this breakdown brilliantly illustrates how competitive intelligence acts as an organizational translator. But how does a management accountant specifically pull this off? Through financial modeling. Tools like scenario analysis and sensitivity analysis are exactly what transforms volatility into vision and complexity into clarity. If an exam question asks you how competitive intelligence reduces uncertainty, well, the answer is right here. It converts fragmented, messy information into actionable financial insights, which enables faster responses to change and much earlier identification of emerging threats. This is exactly why the industry giants invest so heavily in these capabilities. Think about the tech sector. Netflix uses CI to actively monitor shifting customer preferences and highly disruptive competitors. Over in retail, Amazon is constantly analyzing incredibly complex pricing matrices, global logistics efficiency, and consumer behavior to maintain its edge. Apple tracks emerging technologies and supply chain capital leverage to literally out-innovate the rest of the market. And as we mentioned earlier, global banks analyze macroeconomic leverage trends to avoid strategic blindness. These leaders don't just collect unstructured historical data. They turn it into dominance. They do this to detect threats early, exploit brand new opportunities, and absolutely ensure their long-term financial sustainability. Which brings us to a massively important topic, Section 5, the ethics of intelligence, the boundary of strategy. We have got to establish the strict ethical guardrails of our profession now, as this is a highly testable area for the CSAK and a core responsibility for literally any management accountant. Intelligence gathering definitely has a dark side. There is a stark boundary between clever intelligence gathering and the severe dangers of industrial espionage. As management accountants, your integrity has to remain uncompromised. Analyzing public financial statements, attending industry conferences, and reviewing public filings, all perfectly ethical. But industrial espionage, bribery, theft of trade secrets, and hacking, those are explicitly unethical. Upholding confidentiality, maintaining professional integrity, and adhering strictly to professional standards isn't just a polite suggestion. Ethical decision-making is a fundamental responsibility that protects the firm from massive, catastrophic legal risk. Let's do a rapid-fire review question. Say an employee secretly obtains confidential documents from a competitor. Is this competitive intelligence? If you encounter a scenario like this in a boardroom or sitting for an exam, the answer is an absolute definitive no. It is corporate theft. It's completely unethical and fundamentally inconsistent with our professional standards. Competitive intelligence must always remain ethical. Relying on stolen secrets destroys professional integrity and introduces massive strategic and legal vulnerability to the organization. Always evaluate and audit the source of your intelligence.
Finally, Section 6, the consultant's mindset. This is the golden rule.
To wrap up this masterclass explainer, we need a complete paradigm shift. You must stop thinking like a traditional accountant just tallying up historical figures and start thinking like an elite strategic consultant guiding the future of the firm. A consultant never asks, how much information do we possess? That's a huge trap. Instead, as an executive, I want you to reflect on these critical questions. Which of our historical assumptions are actually changing? Which competitive risks are actively increasing? And how should our strategy adapt financially to maintain our advantage? The goal here is to determine exactly how management should respond to the environment using robust, forward-looking financial analysis. This quote right here is the golden rule of this entire chapter. If you take nothing else into your CSCA exam, remember these 5 highly testable concepts. Number 1, the critical difference between raw data and actionable insight. Number 2, that 5-step intelligence process. Number 3,
the strict ethical boundaries separating intelligence from espionage. Number 4, the use of financial metrics like liquidity and leverage to assess competitor sustainability. And number 5, how financial modeling and scenario analysis directly mitigate those messy VUCA environments. Memorizing definitions might help you pass a quick quiz, sure, but thinking like a strategist is what actually transforms information into real competitive advantage.
I'm going to leave you with one final provocative reflection question. Are you ready to step away from traditional reporting and become the strategic advisor your organization desperately needs? The data's out there, just waiting for you. It's time to apply your financial expertise to turn that noise into vision, understanding, clarity, and agility. Thank you so much for joining this Masterclass Explainer, and best of luck on your journey to strategic mastery.